What happened when an undercover CEO walked into his own arcade dressed as a part-time technician? He expected broken machines and lazy staff, but what he found was a single mother quietly holding the place together with grit, grace, and zero recognition. Hey there, amazing listeners. You're about to hear a story that proves real leadership isn't about power, it's about presence. This emotional journey will remind you why listening, empathy, and showing up matter more than any title, so buckle up, because this undercover mission turns into a transformation no one saw coming. Let's dive in. Jared Cole, the 42-year-old CEO of Pixel Zone Entertainment, sat in his high-rise office overlooking downtown Chicago, reviewing the latest quarterly reports. On paper, things looked stable. Revenues were decent, expansion plans were on track, but a string of red flags caught his attention. Guest satisfaction scores were down, staff turnover was up, and a disturbing number of maintenance tickets were left unresolved at one particular branch, Neon Rush Arcade in Cincinnati. The district manager brushed it off, blaming lazy staff and high local turnover. Not worth your time, they had said. Jared didn't like being told what was or wasn't worth his time, especially when it came to the company his father had built from scratch with vintage machines and a dream of giving kids safe spaces to play. Determined to see the truth with his own eyes, Jared made a bold decision. He would go undercover. That weekend he ditched the tailored suit, dyed his silver-streaked hair a darker brown, trimmed his beard and added a slight limp to his walk for authenticity. A Pixel Zone hoodie, cheap sneakers, and a name badge reading Eli Tech Trainee completed the transformation. No one at Neon Rush had met him in person, and the high turnover meant nobody questioned a new hire. When he showed up for the 7 a.m. shift, the arcade smelled of popcorn and ozone, humming with the soft buzz of machines waking up. The manager didn't even glance up from her clipboard when he walked in. "You must be the new floor tech," she muttered. "Follow Riley, she'll keep you from getting electrocuted." Jared blinked at the name, Riley, a name he would come to remember. He followed the glowing trail of light up dance floors and air hockey tables toward the front, where a young woman in a red staff tee was already helping a kid retrieve a token from under a machine. She spotted him, tossed him a quick smile, and called out, "You must be Eli! Congrats, you get the best job!" Chasing jammed skee-ball tickets and fixing everything with duct tape. Her voice was warm, real, not customer service chipper, but genuinely welcoming. Jared chuckled and introduced himself, slipping into his role. As she handed him a toolkit and a walkie, he realized he wasn't just stepping into a shift, he was stepping into a world he hadn't seen in years. The floor, the noise, the energy, it all felt foreign now. But this was where his company truly lived and breathed, and he was about to find out what it meant to be part of it again, one broken claw machine at a time. Riley Moore moved through the arcade like she had cheat codes for real life, swift, focused, and with just enough flair to keep kids entertained and parents calm. She was in her late 20s, wore a slightly faded Pixel Zone shirt knotted at the side, and kept her long curly hair tied back with a neon scrunchie that matched her energy. Jared, or Eli as everyone knew him, watched in quiet awe as she bounced from machine to machine with practiced ease. A jammed ticket dispenser here, a birthday party gone sideways there. She handled every issue with a cool head and a quick joke. When a kid cried over a malfunctioning claw game, she didn't just apologize, she knelt down, talked to him gently, and handed him the plush toy he'd almost won, saying, "Looks like the machine has stage fright today. You scared it with your skills." The boy's tears instantly turned to a giggle. Riley turned to Jared with a smirk and said, "Rule 1, make magic when the machines can't." Throughout the morning, she led him across the buzzing floor, showing him how to reset arcade cabinets, refill prize shelves, and even use a butter knife to reboot a stubborn VR Ride's touch panel. Jared noticed something else, too. She never stood still. Even when she laughed or joked, her eyes flicked to the door, the timer on a popcorn batch or a flashing maintenance light. It was like she had a mental map of the entire space running in her head at all times. But occasionally, when no one was looking, her shoulders would sag for half a second, or she'd subtly press her hand against her lower back as if trying to knead out the pain. Jared made a note of those quiet moments. During a lull in the rush, she handed him a bottle of water, and wiped her forehead with her sleeve. "This place doesn't slow down, especially on weekends," she said, nodding toward the door. "But the kids make it worth it, seeing them light up when they win a prize or beat their high score." "Yeah, that keeps me coming back." Jared asked how long she'd been working here. "Almost 2 years," she replied. "I've worked every station, every shift, opened on Christmas, closed on New Year's. I guess I just like making things work." As she dashed off to help another customer, Jared stood there for a moment, realizing something he hadn't expected. The real problem at Neon Rush wasn't a lack of leadership. It was that the best leader was wearing a name tag and sneakers, not a blazer or a title. By Jared's second day at Neon Rush, the shine of nostalgia had dulled beneath the fluorescent buzz of reality. From behind his disguise as Eli, he started seeing past the surface-level hustle and into the cracks beneath the arcade's blinking lights. Machines were routinely out of order, some for weeks, covered with curling pieces of tape that read "sorry" in fading marker. The ticket counter printer jammed every few hours, and the snack bar ran out of bottled water before noon. Jared helped Riley troubleshoot a broken racing cabinet, and when he suggested calling in a repair order, she snorted, "Last time we asked, Troy told us to just tape it and smile." Troy, the site supervisor, spent most of his time in the back office, emerging only to bark instructions or blame someone for things going wrong. He hovered just enough to exert control, but never stepped in to help. Not when Ethan, the timid new hire, fumbled through loading prize bins, nor when Camila, the assistant supervisor, missed yet another shift. Jared noticed that most of the team seemed to orbit Riley, seeking her help, her approval, her know-how. She trained without complaint, soothed without needing authority, and somehow still ran the floor. But it came at a cost. After covering a double shift due to Camilla's absence, Jared found Riley crouched behind the redemption desk, rubbing her temples and chewing on an old protein bar. "Lunch?" he asked, concerned. She nodded half-heartedly. "1 bar, 2 ibuprofen, it's the Neon Rush combo." She tried to joke, but her eyes gave her away. Exhaustion clung to her like static. When he pressed gently, she revealed she'd missed 2 shifts the week before because her daughter, Avery, had a fever. "I'm behind on rent now," she said quietly. "One sick day is the difference between having lights or not." The words hit Jared harder than he expected. This wasn't just burnout, this was survival. And no one seemed to care. Later, during a rush, a game card error caused a customer to yell, and Jared saw Riley take the blame, even though Camila had programmed the card wrong. Riley handled it with grace, offering free tokens and a calm apology, but when she turned away, her smile slipped. She didn't complain, she never did. That night, Jared sat in his cheap motel room staring at the ceiling. The district manager had been wrong. The issue wasn't the staff, it was the system. The question now wasn't whether Riley deserved better, it was how long she could keep holding everything together before she broke. Saturday hit Neon Rush like a hurricane. Kids poured in, dragging parents by the arm. The soundtrack of arcade machines layered with laughter, ticket streams, and the occasional tantrum. Jared, still in his Eli disguise, experienced his first full weekend rush, and it was chaos in surround sound. A coin pusher broke down mid-game. The air hockey machine ate tokens and refused to play nice. Parents crowded the snack bar, demanding refunds for lukewarm nachos. And yet, at the center of it all stood Riley, headset on, sleeves rolled up, guiding the madness like a conductor of barely contained mayhem. She dashed between machines, crouched to fix a stubborn crane claw, calmed down a frustrated toddler, and helped a grandparent reload a game card, all in the span of 10 minutes. But Jared noticed something off. Her steps weren't quite as fast, her smile didn't last as long. Once, during a breather between back-to-back parties, he caught her gripping the edge of the counter and breathing through what looked like a wave of nausea. She waved him off. "Just dizzy, probably didn't hydrate," but he saw her pop 2 more ibuprofen when she thought no one was watching. Then came the incident with the angry dad. His son had received the wrong prize, a pack of plastic army men instead of a mini drone. Furious, he demanded a manager. Camila, finally on site but glued to her phone, shrugged it off. "Handle it," she told Riley, not even looking up. Riley took the heat, apologized, and gave the kid bonus tickets from her own stash. Later, Jared checked the system and saw that the prize error had been entered under Camila's ID. Still, Riley never complained. When Jared pulled her aside and asked if she'd ever thought about moving into a leadership role, her expression darkened. "I applied once," she said. "Troy told me I didn't have the right temperament, said I smiled too much. Don't command authority." Her voice was bitter, the only time he'd heard it that way. That night, Jared stayed late under the pretense of organizing parts in the back room. From the shadows, he watched Riley close up. She moved slower now, her energy drained. He noticed her hands shaking as she counted out the drawer, her lips pressing into a tight line to stay composed. When she finished, she grabbed her worn-out duffel bag and headed for the exit. Jared followed discreetly, stepping out into the damp parking lot in time to see her walk toward the bus stop, hoodie pulled tight, shoulders hunched against the wind. She never asked for a ride, she never asked for anything. That night, Jared didn't sleep, because something had shifted. He didn't just want to fix a store anymore. He needed to do right by the person who had kept it from falling apart. Jared showed up early Monday morning, but this time, he wasn't there to fix token dispensers. He was hunting for the truth hidden behind the noise. Over the weekend, his gut had shifted into mission mode. After what he'd seen Riley endure without so much as a complaint, he needed answers. Not assumptions, not excuses, facts. When the floor was quiet and Camilla was still missing, again, he headed to the back office under the pretense of checking supply inventory and discreetly logged into the staff system with his executive credentials. What he found made his jaw clench. Riley had logged more hours than any other employee over the last 6 months, often closing 2 nights in a row after opening the morning before. Dozens of overtime entries were marked denied, including the very weekend she'd covered double shifts. Her advancement request, submitted almost a year ago, was still on file, stamped with a single comment: "Lacks initiative." Jared nearly laughed aloud at the irony. He cross-referenced security logs with shift reports and found multiple discrepancies. Incidents labeled "resolved" had never been addressed, time theft was rampant, staff weren't being paid for hours worked, and several complaints against management had been dismissed or simply deleted. All roads led back to one person: Troy. Jared dug deeper and found internal messages Troy had sent to the district lead, painting the staff as lazy, unreliable, and in need of micromanagement. Riley's name wasn't mentioned once. It was like she didn't exist. And yet, from everything Jared had seen, she was the glue. She trained the rookies, calmed the guests, kept the games running, and absorbed the chaos with no title, no recognition, and no help. That afternoon, when Troy finally rolled into work 2 hours late and grumbled about kids these days while sipping an energy drink, Jared had to physically stop himself from revealing who he was right then and there. Instead, he slipped out and made a call to corporate. "I'm extending my stay in Cincinnati," he told his assistant. "How long?" she asked. He paused. "Until I fix this from the inside out." That night, he rode the closing shift beside Riley again. She looked more tired than usual, eyes rimmed red, voice hoarse, movements sluggish. But she still smiled at a little boy who lost his last token, still bent down to tie a loose shoelace for a girl in light-up sneakers. As they walked out together, Jared asked softly, "Why didn't you ask for help?" Riley shrugged. "People got their own problems. I'm just tired, that's all." He didn't respond, but in his mind the decision was already made. Riley wasn't going to be invisible any longer, and Troy, his time was up. Tuesday morning arrived with a quiet determination. Jared entered Neon Rush not as Eli the trainee, but as himself. No hoodie, no fake limp, no headset. Just a black jacket, jeans, and a calm authority that filled the hallway like static. He walked straight to the back office where Troy sat slouched behind the desk, grumbling at a spreadsheet and sipping burnt coffee. "You're early," Troy said without looking up. Jared stepped inside and shut the door behind him. "We need to talk." Troy glanced up, confused, until Jared removed his badge from his pocket and clipped it to his chest. Jared Cole, CEO, Pixel Zone Entertainment. The color drained from Troy's face like someone had unplugged the machines. "You've been falsifying shift logs," Jared said, voice low and steady. "You've underreported overtime, ignored maintenance requests, rejected advancement applications without reason, and created a hostile work environment." "I didn't know," Troy started, but Jared raised a hand. "You didn't care." There was a beat of silence. Effective immediately, you're relieved of your position. Pack your things. Troy opened his mouth again, but Jared was already walking out. He didn't wait for arguments. The time for conversation was over. Out on the floor, Jared approached Riley, who was restocking plushies at the prize counter. She blinked in surprise. "Thought you were off today," she said, confused by his plain clothes and direct tone. "We need to talk," he said gently. She hesitated, but handed her headset to Ethan and followed him toward the back hallway. "Look," she said as they walked, "if I messed something up?" Jared stopped near the now empty manager's office. "You didn't mess anything up, I did, by not seeing it sooner." She frowned. "What do you mean?" He took a deep breath. "My name isn't Eli. It's Jared Cole, I'm the CEO." Her face went still. "You're serious?" He nodded. "I came undercover because I wasn't getting the truth from reports. I needed to see for myself." She folded her arms, disbelief wrestling with betrayal. "You let me think you were just another guy trying to make rent." "I needed to understand this place from the ground floor," he said. "And I saw the truth. You have been holding this place together." She stared at him, guarded. "You think saying that makes a difference?" "No," Jared said, "but what I do next will." He opened the office door and handed her a clipboard with a single form on top. "You're the acting manager, effective immediately." Her mouth dropped. "What? You've earned this. Your team already trusts you. Now it's official." She looked at the form, then back at him. "I didn't ask for this. That's why you deserve it." And for the first time, Riley had no comeback, just a stunned silence and the beginning of belief in her eyes. Riley's first day as acting manager didn't start with grand speeches or dramatic changes. It began with a clipboard, a black coffee, and a quiet determination. She arrived 30 minutes early, reviewed the shift schedule, and posted a new one. Color-coded, balanced, and for the first time in months, free of surprise double shifts. Jared returned that morning, no longer undercover, but wearing his usual business casual jacket and a subtle smile. He stayed mostly in the background, watching the gears shift. Camila showed up on time, perhaps for the first time in weeks, clearly unsure of her new footing. Riley didn't gloat or give her the cold shoulder. Instead, she calmly assigned her a new responsibility, training 2 junior staff members on the redemption system, a task Camila had once avoided. Even Ethan, the shy teen, stood a little taller when Riley gave him a proper walkthrough of the arcade's prize tracking software, something he had never received during his rushed onboarding. As the morning rush began, Jared watched Riley slip seamlessly into her new role. She didn't micromanage, she guided. When a token dispenser jammed, she walked the new hire through fixing it instead of jumping in herself. When the snack bar ran out of nacho cheese, again, she calmly redirected customers to other options while placing a quick order through the updated vendor system, something Jared had quietly reinstated after Troy's budget shortcuts were revealed. The atmosphere had shifted. The staff moved with more purpose, more confidence. Mistakes still happened. 2 orders got mixed up during lunch, but instead of panic, Riley gathered the team behind the counter, walked through what went wrong, and corrected it without raising her voice. "No blame," she said, "just better next time." Jared had heard dozens of executives speak about leadership, but he'd never seen it lived like this, humble, grounded, and focused on people. Later that afternoon, he called the district team and made a formal announcement. A new leadership development program would begin piloting that quarter. For the first time, floor staff like Riley could apply directly for mentorship and advancement without needing a supervisor's recommendation. No more gatekeeping. Opportunity would be based on initiative, performance, and feedback from peers. Riley would be the program's first official mentee, and eventually one of its mentors. When he told her, she didn't beam or boast, she just nodded, looked down at the clipboard in her hand, and said softly, "Guess I better learn to use this thing right." Jared smiled. "You're already doing better than most. Neon Rush wasn't fixed overnight. Machines still jammed, kids still cried. But now, for the first time in a long while, the team knew who to turn to, not out of fear, but because they trusted her to lead. By the end of the week, Neon Rush Arcade felt like a different place. Not because the machines were all working perfectly or because the noise had lessened, but because the rhythm had changed. It was steadier now, more collaborative. Jared returned on Friday afternoon, not to check in as an executive, but to witness what real leadership looked like when it grew from the ground up. Staff members who used to clock in with heads down now greeted each other with quick nods and inside jokes. The schedule was posted on time, breaks were respected. Riley's name no longer sat next to cashier or floor tech. It was printed at the top of the roster under manager. She didn't carry herself like someone newly in charge. She carried herself like someone who had always been responsible and was finally recognized for it. Jared found her seated at the back table, reviewing time cards with a pencil tucked behind her ear. She looked up when he approached and smirked. "Didn't think you sat still long enough to visit twice in 1 week?" He chuckled and pulled out a chair. "I'm trying something new, slowing down for the right reasons." He handed her a sealed envelope. "It's official." She opened it and read silently. Her eyes widened as she processed the contents. A full promotion, a significant raise, benefits, and a company-weighty fund launching for emergency childcare, something she could access whenever Avery needed her unexpectedly. She started, voice catching, "This changes everything. Avery's never had a real birthday party before." Jared smiled. "She's earned it too." Riley exhaled deeply, clutching the letter like it might disappear. "No one's ever done anything like this. Not here." Jared leaned back. "That's changing. Starting with you." As they sat in companionable silence, the arcade buzzed in the background. Camila was helping Ethan fix a scanner jam without snapping. A new trainee stood beside Riley's old register, confidently walking a parent through the reward system. When Riley rose to get back to work, she paused and extended her hand. "Thanks for showing up." Jared shook it firmly. "Thanks for not giving up when no one else did." She gave a nod, turned, and joined the floor, where her presence now carried weight not just as a supervisor, but as a symbol of what leadership could be. Later, as Jared walked through the main floor toward the exit, he didn't look at the blinking lights or the buzzing games. He looked at the people, each one seen, supported, and finally valued. Outside, the wind had shifted, not harsh, not cold, just new. And for the first time in a long while, Jared didn't feel like he was walking away from the business. He was walking with it. The story of Jared and Riley teaches a powerful lesson. True leadership starts with listening, humility, and showing up. Jared, a CEO removed from the daily grind, thought his company was running fine, until he stepped onto the floor and saw the truth through the eyes of those holding everything together. Riley, a dedicated yet overlooked employee, didn't seek recognition. She simply did her job with compassion, grit, and integrity. But the system failed her. It took someone in power choosing to see her, to hear her story, for change to begin. This story reminds us that titles don't define leaders, actions do. Empathy is not a weakness in business. It's the foundation for sustainable, human-centered growth. Companies thrive when they empower their people, not when they exploit their silence. The real reward isn't just in improving profits or systems. It's in giving people like Riley the dignity, support, and opportunities they've always deserved. And for leaders like Jared, the biggest transformation wasn't in the business, but in himself. He didn't just fix a broken arcade, he rewrote the rules on what it means to lead with heart. Sometimes the greatest change begins when someone finally asks, "Who's been carrying the weight, and why haven't we noticed?"